Yeah, welcome back to the last two presentations. As promised, we will have a very interesting perspective from Dr. Adrian Schaffranietz from NordStream 2 regarding the latest developments of the project and the relation to sustainability. He is a governmental relation coordinator. He is active in Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Russia, Germany, Poland, Belgium, Baltic states, so very European and has a lot of perspective. In his former life, he also worked for E.ON, Global Gas, and other energy companies. He has a PhD from the Institute of Media Science, so he's very qualified to talk about this kind of linkage between government responsibility, economic responsibility, and sustainability. The floor is yours. We are very interested to hear the developments and your perspective on sustainability. Thank you for coming.
Many thanks from my side. Hello and good afternoon. And many thanks for your kind words. Well, my name is Dr. Adrian Schaffranietz, and I'm responsible for government and stakeholder relations at NordStream 2. And I'm honored to join this year's FATS conference, and we'll talk about NordStream 2 and its implications for a sustainable energy supply for Europe, about what we at NordStream have done and continue to do to ensure that the project is implemented in accordance with the highest environmental and social standards. I will give you an overview of the current project status as well. As you know, our project is very much reflected in the current media discussion. So here we go. Let's start shortly with the project. In a nutshell, NordStream 2 is a natural gas pipeline through the Baltic Sea. It will connect Europe with the world's largest natural gas reserves in Russia over a distance of around 1,230 kilometers and provide up to 55 billion cubic meters of additional transport capacity per year to Europe. However, the gas imported via the pipeline is also intended for the rest of the European domestic market. So it's not a German-Russian project, it's a European project. The planning and construction of the pipeline is based on the first Nord Stream pipeline, Nord Stream 1, which has already been successfully implemented and has been in operation since 2012. Prior to the construction of the pipeline, the project has undergone an extensive international consultation and approval process in the countries through the roads, waters the pipeline passes. This has been completed and all building permits have been obtained. The additional, I can't see my next slide, but hopefully will be, the additional, hang on. I hope you can see slide 3 now. However, the additional supply of natural gas delivered via Nord Stream 2 will have tangible benefits for Germany's and the EU's efforts to reach the EU climate goals. For example, using 55 billion cubic meters natural gas instead of coal could save, roughly speaking, I would say 14% of CO2 emissions of EU power generation, making it an ideal partner for renewables. In the future, natural gas transported through Nord Stream 2 can also be used for local production of blue hydrogen to save further emissions. Even compared to other natural gas sources and infrastructure, Nord Stream 2 has benefits. For example, it has a much better carbon footprint than LNG, and this is also highly discussed now in the media, American LNG and European gas pipeline from Russia. Next to the sustainability aspects, let me quickly go into more detail about security of supply and the need more natural gas in the future, because of domestic production in Europe is falling while demand will remain the same or even increase slightly. It is assumed, and you might know it from the media coverage in these days, it is assumed that EU-owned gas production will be halved in the next 15 to 20 years. At the same time, European gas demand has been growing about 3% annually since 2014. The combination, which I described now, of a decline in EU production and the recovery of European gas demand means that by the mid-2030s, if not earlier, there will be an import gap of, roughly speaking, 120 billion cubic meters per year. Nord Stream 2 pipeline will be built in response to the long-term import needs of the European markets and thus improving security of supply and reliability. Now, let's talk about, and this is a key part of my presentation, about how we ensure a sustainability implementation of the project. First of all, Nord Stream is committed to comply with the environmental and social performance standards of the International Finance Corporation. These are the benchmarks for environmental and social sustainability and mandatory prerequisites for externally financed and developments. Implementation of these standards is ensured by including the requirements in our contracts, and as we have different financial partners, as you know, on the one hand, and with our subcontractors on the other hand. On top of this, Nord Stream 2 has identified gaps between the standards and environmental and social requirements on national levels. As a result of this analysis, we developed, for example, the Environmental and Community Investment Initiative Strategy, short ECOI strategy, especially for Russia. We are currently developing and implementing this comprehensive environmental and social program with great success in Russia. Let me give you some examples. Nord Stream 2 is also following the mitigation hierarchy throughout the project, which seeks to avoid, first, reduce, second, and offset, third. Meaning, first, anticipate and avoid adverse impacts. Secondly, if this is not possible, minimize the resulting impacts. And lastly, implement compensation or offset measures for the impacts that cannot be fully avoided or minimized. Nord Stream 2's ECOI program in Russia is part of our efforts to compensate and offset any adverse impacts on the project and to achieve a net gain for the environment and the people in the landfall area in Russia. To anticipate and avoid impacts, comprehensive surveys have been conducted to identify the optimal route, in particular from an environmental perspective. So I give you a few examples. A massive survey program of more than 71,000 line kilometers along the route has been conducted for the purpose, involving 80 vessels from 8 countries. We have collected, roughly speaking, also 2,300 samples, spent more than 870,000 man-hours to find the best route, and gathered around 150, I think the last message was 160 terabytes of data. Overall, we have spent around 40 million euros on survey works alone. Crossing Kugalsky, and this is one of the key topics, our landfall in Russia. Let's focus on the project area in Russia as an example. In Russia, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline crosses the Kugalsky Natural Reserve. Alternative shore crossing locations were considered and in the end discarded on technical and environmental grounds. The Kugalski Natural Reserve is a regionally protected area with Ramsar designation. The Ramsar Convention is an international convention to protect wetlands and the flora and fauna that inhabit the wetlands. The crossing of the Kugalski Reserve, which could not be avoided, created an additional risk due to the requirements to minimize impacts. In the first instance, we selected the area of natural reserve where crossing would have the last impact on biodiversity. My presentation is not moving forward, sorry for this, but I go ahead with my presentation. Subsequently, NordStream 2 developed an optimized construction solution never used before on such a scale for the crossing of this natural reserve and minimized impacts to the sensitive areas that could not be avoided. The optimized construction solution, which does not require dewatering of the conventional trench, has allowed for the preservation of the local hydrology of the wetland. I would like now, it's slide number 11, to come to the eco-eye approach, which I already mentioned with a few sentences. Where impacts occur, however minimal, it was necessary to compensate or offset the impact. For this purpose, NordStream 2 and our teams have developed a biodiversity action plan and the environmental community initiatives strategy, which allows us to implement offsets in full synergy with investments and the aim to promote community developments at the same time to promote the NordStream 2 brand. Through the eco-eye strategy, which aimed to achieve a net positive impact for the environment, the communities of the region secure so-called social license to construct and to operate, demonstrate compliance with the IFC performance standards, this is international finance cooperation standards, and create a positive legacy for the territory where NordStream 2 operates. Next one is slide number 12. So eco-eye strategy has developed and is being implemented in close dialogue with local stakeholders. You can see it on the slide, including authorities, academics, NGOs, and communities. Moreover, we put a strong emphasis on a research-based approach of all initiatives, including extensive environmental and sociological research. And the strategy has been endorsed and supported by the government of the Leningrad region, who has appointed key contact points within the relevant departments of the administration to liaise with NordStream 2. You can see on slide 12 the picture of the task force of the Leningrad region government. Okay. The threats analysis identified pressure, people visiting and using the reserve mostly for recreational purposes as one of the main threats to the reserve, and a set of priority measures has been developed and agreed upon the responsible authority. See slide for details on the right side. The purpose of the priority measures is to facilitate enforcement of the reserve regulations, to control obviously tourist presence in the reserve, and to increase the environmental awareness of visitors throughout the provision of educational infrastructure. And currently, NordStream 2 is supporting the implementation of these measures as part of the eco-eye. Another example on slide 14 is that one of the key success factors of the eco-eye program is the synergy between environmental and social initiatives wherever possible and meaningful. This helps to achieve community ownership and participation in environmental protection activities, and thereby reinforces the effect of our environmental activity. This also empowers the local community to become an active agent in the preservation and further development of the environment. Our offset EcoI initiatives in Cusentino, a settlement located in the area, is a prime example for the integrated approach under the EcoI program. See on slide 14. So let me get back, after all these examples, our activities in Russia to the current status, because I know most of you, and I was told by organizers, are interested in the current status and our threats by Americans. So I give you a short update about the situation. On December 20th, 29, US President Trump signed sanctions against the companies involved in our pipeline. More precisely, he signed a Defense Act, which includes sanctions. At this time, more than 2,300 kilometers of the pipeline had already been built, and this corresponds a kind of 94%. So 6% are just missing since end of December due to American sanctions. Our contractual partner OSIS, by the way, a Swiss company, in preparation for the entry for the NDA, immediately stopped the pipelaying work, which has been suspended ever since. However, all the work, such as completion and landing, now you can see it, station in Lubmin in Russia, and the offshore works to stabilize the project continued as planned. Another important point is that the project, by the way, is not only backed by the Russian company Gazprom, but also by 5 leading Western companies and energy suppliers. Nord Stream 2 is a fully privately financed project. While Gazprom is the sole shareholder, the German companies Uniper, former A&O subsidiary, and Wintershall Dea, the Austrian OMV, the British Dutch Royal Shell, and the French energy supplier Engie are involved as financial investors and provide about half of the financing. Despite the sanction threats, the recent political debates, and the current construction stop, our financial investors are still fully supporting the project. You can see on the slide number 17 quotes from our investors. Let's take a closer look at the US sanctions in this matter in the end. The original sanctions law, and I try to be very short on this, included sanctions against Russia's energy export pipelines. Nord Stream 2 was, however, excluded in 2017 as part of the law's public guidance. The project has been advanced since 2017, reliant, but, and this is a big but now, current US politics are breaking this promise, aiming to stop, delay, or increase the cost for the pipeline with diplomatic pressure and sanction threats. You might have seen letters from 3 senators to the German harbor Sassnitz. The motivation behind this desire is to mention competition with US LNG, trade conflicts, as well as US domestic politics and the current election campaigns. And current, yesterday published survey mentioned that President Trump tries to do the best for Europe, and just 1% of German voters believe him that he wants the best for Europe. He wants to sell US LNG, so it's just a trading issue and not trying to be a partner for European gas supplies. In July, the public guidance for CATSA, one of the legal causes, was updated to include Nord Stream 2. According to bills have been introduced in the US House and Senate to amend the already existing sanctions law, the one included in the one from 2019 signed by President Trump last December. Threats by US senators to European financial investors and involved companies have been seen for the last weeks, followed especially by the letters in July and August. The EU and Germany reject these extraterritorial sanctions, including an official démarche delivered to the US Department by 24 US countries in August. Washington, however, seems unaffected by the US reasoning. This is, in a nutshell, the current status of the project. And you know, we have been in the media for the last days, where also political developments in Russia, the Navalny case, have been also combined with a stop of Nord Stream 2. Many thanks for listening. This is the shortest update I can give you on this immense project, the biggest infrastructure project in Europe right now, and one of the longest pipelines in the world. Many thanks for listening, and Professor, I would like to get your questions. Many thanks.
Thank you very much for introducing this very interesting project. As you said, it's all over the media, a lot of attention, also political attention. Thank you also for telling about the challenges you have right now to finish it. What would be your prospective development if you look for the next couple of months, for the next year? What will be the solution for your challenges? Is there kind of a sustainable solution to finish the project? What would you say?
Yes. Well, first of all, we need a vessel to finish the project, and we are working on solutions right now. Secondly, we work on solutions and discussions with the EU Parliament to fulfill the project and to finish the project at our earliest convenience. So we are very optimistic. However, after the NDA measures by the US government in late 2019, the project has been stopped. So for more than half. So we are now looking for new solutions, and we will inform in due time. This is a very sensitive issue, as you might gather.
Yeah. During the day, we also learned that especially for potential investors, sustainability becomes more and more important. So if you're saying you're looking for potential investors to finish the project, what kind of sustainability case could you draw? What would be the consequences for the climate change and all the other sustainability issues if the project is stopped and not finished? Is there any kind of a effect on the sustainable supply of energy in Europe, or what is your positive impact in terms of finishing the project and bringing the gas from Russia to Europe through your pipeline? Is there any sustainability part you would tell the investors to basically finance your project?
First of all, we have investors. So we have five big investors in Europe who support us with roughly speaking 1 billion per investor: Shell, Wintershall, ENGIE, OMV, and who was missing? ENGIE, OMV, and Uniper, my former employee. I forgot my former employee. Aon and Uniper was 1 billion. And regarding the second part of your question, to secure a sustainable energy supply, this is in line with European climate goals and Germany's nuclear phase out. And our investors, all investors have the highest standards to our project and to support our activities for the landfall in Russia, but also for the landfall in Germany. So this is for all companies very, very important with the higher standards in the companies. Secondly, what would it mean? I mean, the nuclear and the coal phase out are no longer secured our energy supplies. So natural gas could be, if the only one left, the only, let's say, molecular energy to secure energy supply against the backdrop of phase out of nuclear and coal. This is, I think, a very, very important argument for our pipeline. The other arguments I mentioned already, few domestic production, on the other hand, is declining. So we have also a very long-term investment. It's not investment for the next years. The pipeline is built for the next decades. And as mentioned in the first slide, we have this decline in Europe, and this is a very, very important part to have a security of supply in Europe.
Okay. Thank you very much for bringing this very interesting perspectives on the table in the sustainability discussion. I think it's very interesting to have different perspectives. Thank you for introducing such a huge European construction project. And it's probably affecting all of us in Europe. As you said, it's a European project. And of course, we are still interested in getting any news you will develop in the coming months and see how it's proceeding, and also how the sustainability discussion, besides the political and also media discussion, is progressing. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and have a good day and all the best.
Many thanks, highly appreciate. Again, I'm honored to participate in this conference, looking for the next ones. And if you have any questions, I will be meeting this afternoon, but my email address, so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to come back with answers and maybe to dive in further in our activities in Russia regarding our sustainability projects, etc. So many thanks again, Professor Schmidt-Peter, and have a good day, and all the best for you. And it's great to be part of this conference. Many thanks.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.